When did your journey in entrepreneurship really start? How did you come to being an entrepreneur?
I always wanted to do something that was entrepreneurial. I was sort of constrained by working on Wall Street and sort of the guardrails that were part of that.
When did you have this epiphany of doing something to make human life better?
My wife and I, we were living in Palo Alto at the time, and I had the epiphany. I said, we're going to do something, but there's only 1,440 minutes in a day. And I knew that if we were going to build something, it required such dedication, such persistence, such resiliency.
How many entrepreneurs really sit down and think through the problem from start? These ideas have to be thought through in a critical manner. But to bring it to fruition, you have to keep thinking about the problem. And don't worry about raising money, funds. The idea is bigger.
Right.
Your purpose is bigger.
Right.
Jeff, thank you so much for being here this morning. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I'm really excited to be doing this podcast with you.
Sabeer, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. And again, honored for you to be part of what we're doing. And it's just an actual pleasure to be with you and just be here. And I'm happy to do it.
Thank you so much. So tell me, when did your journey in entrepreneurship really start? How did you come to being an entrepreneur?
Initially, when I got out of school, I was working at a financial firm, UBS Financial Services. But within me, I always wanted to do something that was entrepreneurial. I was sort of constrained by working on Wall Street and sort of the guardrails that were part of that. Inevitably, when we decided to start the company, what had happened was I had just returned home from summiting Mount Everest, and I read a story about a young girl in our town outside of Palo Alto who had been sexually assaulted, and then her pictures put up all over social media. And a week later, she took her life. And to me, that was the spark. That was the genesis of trying to figure out, why is this happening? Why does this happen to kids? We should be building products that make human life better, not taking away life. And sort of, that was the spark that said to me, let's build something that can help make human life better and help the fabric of civilization. And I think a lot of people go to bed at night with their heads on their pillows and have dreams. And when they wake up and the sun comes out, they're scared to do it, scared to actually be an entrepreneur, take that journey and say, I'm going to try something that hasn't been done before. It's much like climbing Mount Everest. It's the same sort of thing. And sort of like relatively when you started Hotmail, you do these things that are scary. But if you know you can build something that can get the job done, and most importantly, when you're building, it's very difficult to be people who will never give up. And I come from that DNA of not wanting to give up and to really trying to make human life better and make the world a better place, because I think there are so many people out there who want to take advantage of that.
So how long ago was this? When did you have this epiphany of doing something to make human life better?
We started the company 5 years ago, but the epiphany was longer than that, because as you know, it just doesn't happen overnight. So that was about 9 years ago. And coincidentally, my wife and I, we were living in Palo Alto at the time, and I had the epiphany. And I said to her something that was kind of unique. I said, we're going to do something, but there's only 1,440 minutes in a day. And I knew that if we were going to build something, it required such dedication, such persistence, such resiliency. Number one, I did not want our team who we were going to be hiring to have to sit in traffic. And secondly, I wanted them to be able to afford homes that were close. And to me, that meant really probably wasn't the best idea to build it in the valley and so forth. So I said to my wife, we're going to start the company in Phoenix. Actually, the company is born here in the valley, but it's going to be raised in Phoenix. And I said, you just have to do one thing, sell our house and go buy a new one in Phoenix. And I don't even have to see it. And she said, well, this is a lot easier than going to Everest, because that's 2 months. And I went twice to Everest. So we started it the idea was about 9 years ago, and I essentially moved to Phoenix to start the company, and then did something that a lot of entrepreneurs do. You write a white paper, and wrote about an 85-page white paper about it, and sort of gathering all that, those innovative thoughts about what it was going to be, and sort of trimming the fat of that and figuring out, how can we make this real? How can this white paper, we put this on a whiteboard and turn it into reality, make it tangible? And as you know, a lot of entrepreneurs can't do that. A lot of people have great ideas and you can put them on whiteboards, but can you actually make it something that's real, that's concrete, and secondly, that people will want it? That's another part of it. So the journey to start the company, even though the epiphany was further back than when it started, those are the steps that I think one entrepreneur has to take when you really decide to dedicate, to have a gravitational pull to solving something. And if you want to solve it, you have to be ready to, again, undertake great consistency, great resiliency. And what I like to say is have NyQuil in your fists. And what I mean by that, knock everything out. Any obstacle, and you know that perfectly well from when your time with Hotmail. I mean, it just, you will have obstacles, and you have to want to be intoxicated with solving them. And not everybody wants that. A lot of people just sort of, they like the idea of, I think, being an entrepreneur, but then they get one bloody nose and it's, they wilt like paper mache. And I certainly don't wear a halo or anything, but I do know that you just have to have great determination and a great desire to want to win.
Yeah. I mean, you said, you hit the nail on the head when you said you wrote a white paper.
Yeah.
How many entrepreneurs really sit down and think through the problem from start to the time you put something in the hands of a customer?
Yeah.
That requires enormous amount of thinking. It doesn't just happen that I got this idea, I'm going to go do it. No. It's blocking and tackling, anticipating all the problems you will have. That, I mean, if there is one takeaway that hopefully our viewers take away from this, it's these ideas have to be thought through in a critical manner.
100.
And sometimes it takes years. Once it's circulating in your brain, but to bring it to fruition, you have to keep thinking about the problem. And don't worry about raising money, funds. The idea is bigger.
Right.
Your purpose is bigger.
Right.
Funds and other things happen, by the way.
Right.
But keep solving the problem.
Right. And I agree with you. You have to have that big realm idea and sort of come from the mindset that I believe you chop your own wood and it warms you twice. And you have to be able to concisely understand this is the realm of what we're going to build, and not turn it into something that's just small idea. You have to think big realm ideas, because I think a lot of people I talk to are entrepreneurs. They have an idea and they want to start. White paper it.
Yeah.
Think about it for 2 years.
That's it.
Think about all of the great things that might go your way, and think about all the things that are not going to go your way. Because guess what? As an entrepreneur, as you're gaining your sea legs, there are going to be a lot of things that don't go your way. You're going to have to throw a lot of things in the garbage can, get a lot of bloody noses. It's hard to put runners on base when you're an entrepreneur. And as you said, the funds will come. If you're building something that's great, that you have great discipline, great habits, and for us, it's about keeping your promises and delivering results. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they have great ideas. Can you white paper it? Can you write something that you'll be able to look back on and say, wow, that was really off? But at least you have to start somewhere and have some sort of genesis of, this is what we want to solve. This is how we're going to do it. And most importantly, we're not going to give up.
Yeah.
I think that's a critical piece of the DNA of entrepreneurship. I think too many people, it's hard to be resilient and to have that energy day in and day out, because I think entrepreneurship is about one thing, punching. It's, great highs during the day, the vicissitudes of different things happening throughout the day. And when I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll say, I have an idea, and I'll be like, white paper it. Not whiteboard, white paper it.
That's it.
Go through it, figure it out. You really want to have a thesis that can actually work. If you don't have a thesis that can work, it's not going to work. And you have to do that. And I think you probably talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. So, the white paper idea really is, I think, the critical foundation of starting something.
And like you had already built a lot of resiliency in you because of your conquest of the Everest. Yeah. So tell us, how did the idea to climb the tallest peak on planet Earth come to you first? Yeah. And what steps did you take along the way to accomplishing that dream? Uh, and what failures did you have? And how do you learn from them?
Now, the initial spark happened because when I was a young boy, I read a lot of the early expeditions to the Himalayas by the British. And to me, it was just fascinating. And what was fascinating was that there was this finite line between success and not success. And what I mean by that was getting to the top was great, but there was one thing that was more important: coming back, getting back home to your families and being able to apply those experiences to life. So I read these early stories about Dougal Hansen and Chris Bonington and Mick Jones. These early explorers were going up Everest. And it was treacherous, and no one had really done some of the routes that they have done, but it really just appealed to me. This finite ending of success or not. And I played all sports while growing up, football and baseball, and I ran cross country in college. And when I met my wife, we went to see an Everest movie. It was like the first IMAX that had opened down in San Jose. And there was an Everest movie about the disaster that John Krakauer wrote about, Into Thin Air. And when I saw that with her, I said, if you're signing up for this, you're signing up for Everest. And it was just something that I was so pulled to it. And, in order to do that, that's just not like starting a company. You have to write a white paper of climbing. You don't just show up on Everest and go. You have to climb throughout the world. So I was able to climb throughout the world, but I did do Everest twice. And the first time I did it, at about 23,000 feet, I had what was called a cold air altitude induced asthma attack at 23,000 feet, where I almost lost my life because I couldn't breathe. And I had to climb down. And I had been climbing for about 9 years when I had made that trip finally to go to Everest that first time. And Sabeer, I can tell you the failure I felt coming back. Remember landing in SFO and my wife picking me up, and I felt like a failure. I looked in the mirror and was like, I failed. Everyone around me is going to be critical of me. Everyone around me is going to make fun of me, etc. We're built like that. We have egos to us and so forth. And it was the greatest thing that happened because my wife said to me, you didn't fail. You turned around. You came down. You learned from this experience. It wasn't good. And as I sit here and I tell that story, I remember it so perfectly, looking at the top of Everest, still 6,000 feet away, which is still pretty far, but seeing the summit, it was right there. But turning around and saying, I have to come home. I have to climb. I have to get down to the bottom of this. I have to fly back home. I'm going to have to retrain and do the whole thing over again. And I did. And when I finally got to the top on May 14th, 2011 at 6:10 a.m. Nepal time, I can say the feeling of having not made it the first year and made it the second was perfect. It could have been written better because it allowed me to understand we all face a lot of obstacles. We all have Mount Everest in our life every single day, every day. And as long as you are dedicated, you are committed, and you have to really want it. And I knew that the second time when I went to Everest and the first time, you have to really want it. Altitude is the ultimate kicker. When the higher you go, the worse it gets. And that's with business too. The higher you get, the harder it gets. It gets more difficult. It gets more complex. Excuse me. So that second climb of Everest was pretty interesting. When I went to the top, on that summit bit, going up from 26,000 to 29,000 feet, I lost my eyesight in my left eye climbing up. And early into that sort of part of the summit, and my climbing partner said to me, "You can't see anymore, can you?" And I said, "No, I can't see out of my left eye." And that was a combination of altitude and wind hitting my left eye. And my mindset, I said to him, excuse me, I said, "Well, I have another eye. It's okay." And that was really my mindset. Like, I had such committed faith that I was going to make it. I knew the legs were going to keep working. I know that my lungs were, and I live by something. A bruise on the thigh is pretty far away from your heart. And if you really want something or are dedicated to it and committed, you could do it. And I think that from what I learned from when I did make it the first time, you can imagine a lot of people said to me, "You're going back again? You're going back again?" And I come from a place of you can't let people walk through your mind with dirty feet. You have to have people around you who are not saying that to you, who are supportive, who are saying, "You're going to go back again? Okay, what are you going to do differently? How are you going to attack it differently so you don't get a cold air altitude-induced asthma attack, etc.?" And I think that, again, getting to the top the first time with one eye was, again, a remarkable moment. But most importantly, it shows itself in the real world. With our company, with all of our team, we talk about Everest a lot, battling through obstacles, kicking down doors, punching through bricks, being resilient, knowing also opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. You have to go. You have to work in hyper velocity, much like climbing. If you're up in the death zone, you only have 48 hours before you die. Well, that's opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. You got to take complete advantage of that. So I think all of those experiences I learned on Everest, especially not making it the first time, because it was asinine. I thought I was a failure. I mean, that's not the right way to think. But I think when you're encapsulated within that moment, you think that. But there was so much I learned from that, and it made the top even better. The 2 minutes that I spent on top. So it was a great experience that, again, I'm able to use in business, and secondly, with my kids. When they're going for things, when they're trying out for this team at school, they're going for this event, they're trying to do this. It's okay to try things. You're supposed to. I encourage it. You can't sit within a locked box, and you really want to get runners on pace in everything you're doing.
Yeah. Amazing. What was your white paper? How did you prepare? Now, just like we talk about writing a white paper for a company or an idea, how did you prepare for the first and then the second attempt? From how long was it from the time you watched the John Krakauer movie, and what did you do to prepare yourself
For the client,
for the climb?
couple things. Read a lot. I think that was important to really understand the intricate details of mountaineering. But I think one of the key components was mindset. What you habitually think greatly determines what you become. And I think that was an important component to all success, saying, "I can do this." And the more you visualize and think about doing it and understand what you're doing, I think that allows things that you have in your mind to become real. So for me, for climbing, I began to climb all over the world, mountains all around the world. And I think as you're climbing those and you get more comfortable with a term in mountaineering I like to call suffering. And that's what it is. Suffering at altitude, suffering with pain, suffering your family's not with you. I climbed Everest twice. It's a 2-month climb. I have a wife and 3 kids. Very difficult to be at base camp and call them on a satellite phone and hear that. Yeah. Very difficult. So I think that journey of climbing was really about physical and always doing the training that I would have to do for the physical part. But really, I think most of it was mindset. Mindset and knowing I could do it. You put your mindset to it. And most importantly, as I said earlier, it's very difficult to be people who will not give up. And a lot of people do give up. It's part of it's within our DNA. So from my perspective, that journey of getting to the top and the end, that took about 10 years of climbing. So some people, it's difficult to come up with a goal. 10 years? I mean, you and I can DoorDash food right now in a minute and we'll have it, right? I mean, we're not used to waiting for things. So I think that was a component into it that is important. And that component to me is something called patience. Yeah. You can't make things happen. Waking up earlier does not make the sun rise. Doesn't happen, right? I mean, it doesn't happen like that. And I think that sort of patience it transpires itself also in business. You have to have patience with what you're doing and what you're trying to solve. Because sometimes it's hard to make that happen overnight. Sometimes it takes years of hard work to become an overnight success. No, you don't know all of the hard things. Certainly, you will know when people look at you and they say you hotmail. Well, there was a lot of hard work that went into that, right? So I think that just, again, detailed and very conceptual and concise thinking is so key to so many components of that.
Yeah. No, you said something about suffering, which I have learned to internalize, that it builds character. Yeah. Being able to withstand pain is cathartic for the body, whether it is pain of fasting for 5 days or pain of riding a 78 miles. Last 10 miles of pure hell. Right. Your legs give up, but you're like, I have a vision. I have a dream. I'm going to finish this. And so you internalize that pain. You get through the cramps. You take electrolytes. You do whatever it takes.
Yes, of course. Right.
But it builds. And at the end of it, you feel amazing.
Right.
You remember that experience that you went through hell to reach the top. Right. And I mean, it's the similar thing. And this is one thing I want to instill in my audience in India. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. And you will pursue it if you truly believe in the end goal. Right. That is more important. The value of the idea is more important. So many young kids ask me, what should I do? I'm like, if you have to ask me what you have to do, I can't help you. Right. It has to come from within.
100%.
And the ultimate goal of entrepreneurship is to make the world a better place, not just to make money.
Right.
I mean, so many kids get lost in how much money I'm making. They give me numbers. This is the ROI. I'm like, if you're talking of ROI at this stage, you're better off taking money from a PE investor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is not about PE investment. It's about ideas, pursuing them. It's about the passion. It's about the instinct that you think what you're doing will solve that problem. Mm-hmm. And so trust your instincts more than numbers. I don't want to see numbers. I want to see what is the raw instinct, what's the raw idea, and what are you doing to hit it out of the ballpark.
I agree with you 100%. And like you said, to me, when you're building something, you can't nail Jello to a wall. So ROI and all of those conversations, you have to first have something that's really tangible and intoxicating. And like you said, makes human life better. I mean, I think that's what entrepreneurship is about. Helping the fabric of civilization. That's what it's about. And again, like I speak to a lot of people who say, I have a great idea. I think I can make a lot of money. I'm not interested in that conversation.
Yeah.
It's just not creative enough for me. And, I was at breakfast with my daughters not too long ago. And you know how when you're at a restaurant and they'll bring a kid's menu and they'll bring crayons and things to draw on. And I said to the person serving us, I said, oh, I want one too. And the person serving us said, why do you want that? You're an adult. And what did that tell me? that person was no longer creative. And I think entrepreneurship is about doing something that is so unique, being a kid, being able to draw, being able to come up with ideas. I think a lot of people, they lose that. They lose that ability to critically think and tap that in their brain. This is something that I want to build. Like if I took a piece of paper and gave it to a number of adults and said, draw something, they would say, like what you mentioned, what do I draw? Like when you said, when someone says to you, what should we start? What should we build? That's not what you want. You want someone who's you give them a piece of paper, they start to draw. As a kid does it. When you give your children, when they're young, a piece of paper, they don't say, Dad, what do we draw? They just start doing it. And I think that creativeness is the essence of entrepreneurship and of building unique solutions that are so fun. The space is open. There is so much to build, so many incredible ideas. And all you have to do, again, is just get a finite idea, figure it out, devise a plan, and then just take one step.
That's it.
And taking that one step is often the hardest. Yeah. It's difficult for people to...
You begin with first principles.
Right.
You learn along the way.
100%. I speak to so many people who have good ideas. And I will often say, do it.
Yeah.
And what happens? They won't do it. It's scary. And like you said, it's tough to be an entrepreneur. I remember I heard someone say, being an entrepreneur is like eating glass, right? I mean, it is tough, but it is rewarding if you have that mindset of wanting to solve multiple things, not just 9 to 5, 24 hours a day, 1,440 minutes in a day. And you have to be intoxicated by wanting to solve things every single moment and get a high from it, which I do. And I think most entrepreneurs do. You get a high from solving things and watching things evolve and become real.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
That's
really fun.
I mean, we just launched yesterday. The team is so excited. They are up 24/7, monitoring the site, making sure bugs, this thing are fixed. They can't believe it that we've got 12,000 downloads in one day and that people are posting, things are happening. Their work has seen light of day.
Right.
It's a new feeling.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? You think I was never going to launch? Well, I'm not scared. And if it doesn't work, well, at least we'll find out. Fail, but fail early.
Absolutely.
But get data, get feedback. And now they are getting to see it's working. And I'm telling you, this will resonate and reverberate amongst the audiences in India because they have never been taught to think like it.
Yeah. Yeah, understand.
Everybody's so afraid of failure in my home country that they don't want to fail. They don't want to try something because what if they fail? I'm like, you will learn. Look, he didn't give up. He went to Everest the second time. But he said, doesn't matter. I know what went wrong. Maybe I have to condition my body better. Maybe I have to figure out what my asthma attack is because of and see if I can withstand it. If I overcome that, I will. And you did scale I am. That life is a set of experiences. It's about overcoming your obstacles. It's not just about the end goal. No. I mean, I reached the end goal, fortunately, luckily, somehow at 29.
Right.
And then I was like, no, this can't be the end. This can't be. I don't want to just live and vegetate. I want to do something else. And look at me. I'm doing 4 companies now and having the time of my life.
And that's what's great. And like you said, a lot of people are so fragile when it comes to failure.
Yeah.
There's a fragility to that. And you can't have that. You can't have that. Look at the excitement your team has with this launch. They've seen that become real.
Yeah.
And to me, what is more exciting than that? Seeing something that was just a spark up here in your mind becoming real. I mean, that is the magic of it all.
That's it.
That is that is real magic that we as entrepreneurs get to do. We get to make magic, make things happen, but also understand it's going to be tough. You can't be fragile. You can't worry about the opinions of other people.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. You can't let people walk through your mind with dirty feet. If you have an idea that you are excited about and you have the moxie the toughness, the consistency, you can do it. You just have to accept, guess what? You're going to get bloody noses. There's going to be little failures every day. But those great failures lead to incredible things. And if it was easy, everyone would do it.
That's it.
That's the other side. Every single person you see when you're at airports, when you're in conversations with people, they would do it, but they don't.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a special breed. And
very well said.
Yeah. And it's great that you're able to turn that and make what you guys launch real. It's really great.
Let's dive into CyberDive.
Yes.
Tell us, what is the product? You've told us the idea of, you were very moved by some, lady, girl who lost her life because of her pictures were all over the internet. So tell us details. What is the product? What does it do? What problem it solves? And how you are bringing it to the masses.
We wanted to create a phone so that parents were able to see every single action that their kids were taking on social media. And I mean every action. Does not matter if they're on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Kick, Twitch, Discord. Every action that happened on that phone was sent to a parent dashboard all in real time. Had to be seamless and dependable as electricity. And for us, we knew that parents had a screaming pain. Parents had a blind spot wondering, what are my kids doing online? Who are they becoming friends with? What are they learning about? What are algorithms giving them content-wise? We knew a lot of kids were going through self-harm, bullying, body image issues, drugs, anxiety, depression. But guess what? There's also a great side of social media too. It's not all nefarious, but unfortunately there had never been a product out there that showed parents everything. And we believed that parents had a fundamental right to understand what their kids were being fed. And to us, that was important because we knew a lot of parents who were giving phones to their kids for the first time. Those were parents who grew up on social media. So they understood what social media was about, and they believed in involvement over limitation. They wanted to have conversations, good and bad conversations. So we decided to set our sights on building a phone where all of that information that child was doing was sent directly to a parent dashboard, all in real time, and very easy for them to digest. This is what my child is looking at. And from our standpoint, there are obviously the nefarious things that are happening on social media that parents wanted to know about. But then there are these good things that parents want to know about. If their child has a new interest, if their child is learning about a new musical band, if they want to learn about quantum mechanics, if they want to learn about woodworking, that is good for a parent to know that, because we know a lot of parents want to talk to their kids about these things, and they couldn't see that. Now, discussing that we were going to do it was pretty easy. Building it was much more circuitous and complex. Very difficult to build, like an ETL, an extract, transform, and loading system, where you're moving mass amounts of data from a phone. We built the operating system on a phone, and then to move that data all in real time, all to a parent dashboard. And we also have shared dashboards. So that information, multiple pathways. And that took a long time to figure out, because we had to do one thing: make it perfect. If it was just okay, it's not good enough. We are dealing with the treasures of people, their kids. They want to know what is happening. If a child is starting to get bad grades in school, they can go online, or the parent can go onto their dashboard and say, maybe I can find what happened. Maybe there was some trigger to that. If there are other nefarious things happening, and unfortunately, there are nefarious things happening in our world with kids and predators. People who try to groom kids for nudity, for trafficking, for other nefarious things. And it is a widespread problem that doesn't get enough press. It just doesn't get enough press. And we knew we wanted to be able to show parents, this is what your kids are doing. We also included what is called a nudity prevention feature. And what that did was that the phone shuts down on the front camera or back camera if it sees male or female genitalia. So there was no way that a child now could take a picture. Child doesn't even have to hit the picture button. The phone immediately shuts down right when that image is seen by the camera. An alert is sent to the parents saying, your child just tried to take a picture of male or female genitalia. You can unlock the phone, but we also advise you to go talk to your child. And we did that because there were so many cases of sextortion happening in the country where people from other countries were preying upon our youth and asking them to send nude photos under the guise of being an interested lover. And when that child would send that nude photo, they would try to then extort them for money. And unfortunately, that has led to many of these young kids in the United States and throughout the world taking their lives because they're being extorted in a moment of weakness. If you don't send the money, we're going to put up these photos everywhere and you're going to be embarrassed. And young kids don't know how to handle that. It's tough. It's tough as a young kid to sort of process that. And these are real families. This is not just an article. These are real families that we visit with, that we talk to, who've lost a child. And that just wasn't good enough for us. We wanted to be able to create something that allowed parents to get back in the game and allow kids to be able to, especially young kids, have conversations that are hard for kids to have. Sometimes kids don't want to do that. So it was complex building what we wanted to build, and it took a lot of time because in building that system, I know I summed it up in 45 seconds here. That took time to build something that worked so perfectly that, again, we're doing interesting ETL things with moving data from all of those sessions that are happening on a phone to a parent. Then you have a nudity detection feature that sends something to the parent and then unlocks the phone. So you're doing almost reverse ETL as well, which again, difficult, but really fun to solve. How do we build that? And we also knew all of our product adjacent actors out there, screen time locks, things that cop out product from our point of view. Yeah. That's not hard to build. Yeah. That does not take innovation. We really think of our team as the Imagineers from Disneyland. Come up with ideas. Come up with features that parents want, not just today. Yeah. I think 10 years. That's true. And I think that's what's key. You can't be like a one-trick pony. You cannot be. If you only have one idea, this is it. You have to really be able to say, here's a suite of what this can come. And as you know, Sabeer, big realm ideas. It can't just be, we want to be the number one monitoring company in the United States of America for families. No. It has to be the world. Yeah. And how do we do that? How do we continue to come up with creative ideas that we can patent, that are innovative, that are thought-provoking, and most importantly, get the job done and get it done very well. And I think that we've created something that is unique, that is very functional, and it's the only phone that does that. The parent gets to see everything. Think of it much like instant replay or like a TiVo or a DVR. Yeah. That is really... And alerts as well. And it has the alerts real time. Real time. Yeah, to figure out what they're seeing. Absolutely. One of the key components in my mind when we were building it was, and I know it's not the greatest analogy, that we wanted a parent to be able to be at a red light in a car and be able to look on the dashboard and see what was happening. That's how cool, that's how the UI we wanted it to be like. That's what we wanted it, that the parent at any moment could just look at and understand this is what's happening. This is great. This is what I want to talk to my child about, etc. And I think the genie is out of the bottle. Our phones are not going away. You can't function without a phone. It's like, how did we even function? It's hard to even remember how we functioned without them. But the genie is out of the bottle. And for us, with creating, we didn't want to spit in the wind. We didn't want to lead from behind. We wanted to build things that were tough, that took time, that really enabled us to really think outside the box. How do we do all those things? How do we put that together? We're moving multiple subsets of data all the time, multiple dashboards, because again, we have a lot of parents who are in the military and might be stationed somewhere. They want to know what their children are doing too. Allows them to see something. If they have a child where they're looking up something about Egypt or the mummies or the Nile River, a person who's serving can then send their child a book about Egypt. Yeah, and that's a cool thing. I mean, that is sort of the involvement that we think is important. And for us, all that does is create better digital citizens. And I think there are so many nefarious things that are happening online all the time. If there is a way for a bad actor to come into your neighborhood, they're going to figure it out. They're going to try to do so to take advantage of that. And we want to be able to provide that protection for families and also create that bonding experience where a parent can say, hey, I saw that you like this new rock band. Let's go see Arctic Monkeys. I got tickets. What a great thing for a parent to be able to do. I think all parents want that experience. They want to be able to bond with their kids and really, have those relationships that are important, that are meaningful. And young kids today who are tugging on their parents' arm, I need to be on Snapchat. I have to be on Snapchat. Because if you're not on Snapchat, you're not part of the group. And we all want our kids to be part of the group. But for us, we also needed to be able to show parents things that were encrypted.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of nefarious things happen with a lot of predators that are encrypted. And parents deserve to understand what was happening. And we're unapologetic about building that.
Yeah. What about the downside of do kids ever see this as an intrusion of their privacy?
It's a great question. We don't market for kids who have been driving without the seatbelt. And here in the States, there was a time when seatbelts were not mandatory in cars. And then in the 70s and 80s, they became mandatory. And people were against that. And they're like, wait, I have to put a seatbelt on? Well, now, again, you get into your car. I mean, it's just natural for us to do that. We really go after that parent who's buying a phone for their child for the first time. And a lot of those kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're young kids. They don't look at it like that. The way that we've sort of been preconditioned to think that, what they see, the world. I get this phone. I get to look up anything. I get to learn about dolphins. I get to learn about my sports heroes. I get to learn about music. I get to learn about Andy Warhol in art. I get to learn about mathematics, how to start a company. I get to read about a guy who climbed Mount Everest. I mean, that is sort of young kids' mindset. They don't think, oh, Mom, you're going to see what I'm doing. It's just not part of their early mindset. That sort of happens later in life. And that's good. Our phone is not for everyone when they turn 16, 17, 18. They should graduate. They should graduate to a place where parents aren't watching them because guess what? They are going to move into the real world. They're going to have to do that. And so for us, those young families, interestingly enough, those kids like it. They like that their parents are seeing what they are viewing because, again, it promotes conversations. And I think it allows kids to do one thing. If someone is bullying them or is attacking them about something or putting them down, Mom and Dad now know it. I think we've grown up in a society where a lot of times we live, suck it up, just deal with it. And sometimes it's hard for kids to say, hey, I'm being bullied. My friend is being bullied. It's hard to articulate some of those conversations. And so we've sort of had the opposite. Kids are excited about it because, again, they get to go into that online world that is so magical. There's so many incredible things they get to learn from journaling and music and things about health and education. They want to learn a new language. That is a beautiful thing. And I think that is a real great component of what we do is being able to show that parent everything so that it helps with raising their kids. If a child wants to learn this new language, parent can figure out how to teach them that and how they can do that. And I think that makes the fabric of civilization better, encourages us, it propels us.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What is next step for Cyberdive?
Yeah.
Is it more carrier relationships? Do you want to expand internationally? Do you want to get more subscribers? You want to spread the word? How are you going about it? Is this a consumer application device? Are you going to market to other carriers who are going to then market it to their subscribers?
Great question. And I think as you've perfectly know, you can't boil the ocean. That is, I think, something that entrepreneurs do. They want to do it all. And if you do it all, then you're not doing something right. I mean, you have to really focus on what you're doing. At our point of our company, our job right now is about branding, getting the name out there, and really getting into the mindset of parents to understand that there's something out there that's different and much more useful than anything else out there. And so as we grow right now, our job is to scream about what we're doing, which is the fun part. Because when you're a startup and you're stealthy, you can't do that. You can't scream and say, this is what we've created. And from my standpoint, showing it to the world is the most fun thing. It's sort of like you've been in the locker room and you've been building and getting ready. So for us, our job right now is to brand, talk with a lot of partners and entities who are interested in us, and figure out the right pathways forward for expansive growth. When obviously, as you want to scale, you want to have great people that are part of you. And from my standpoint, I try not to major in things I'm minor at. That's something that I truly believe, and that surrounding our company with great minds who also have the want and the desire to grow and to, again, help the fabric of civilization is what we're doing right now. And that's talking with carriers and other entities as well who are interested in really mass spreading of the company. And I think that's a fun part to be at when you're sort of still relatively small and haven't grown to your full arena that you want to get into. But I think for us, every single day is very exciting, because when you build something that's wanted, that there is a excitement and people are using, and you have entities who are intrigued with that, because there's a lot of entities that want to make human life better too. And I think that's the fun part where we are right now, is growing it and scaling it. And most importantly, I think as a company, as we continue to bring team members more on, it's right now we have about 35 team members. The fun part is bringing on people that share the mindset. And I think that's a real exciting part, because again, the more intellectual capital you can bring in, the better it grows. And I think that's important when you're growing a company, when you really want to build a company that's a castle that has a moat around it. We're not building just to be, a small company. We're building big realm ideas that have at least 10 to 12 years of features that we can build in. And I think that's fun. And for me, every, once a month, looking at that white paper is kind of an intriguing thing to see. This is what it was. This is how I wrote it. And to see ideas that were once circulated in my mind, then put into our team's mind, to see the power of what they were able to build and do that, and take that intellectual capital and say, we're going to make this different.
Yeah.
We're going to do this different. And for us, that is the key, that heart beats and brains. That is what builds a company. And I think from my standpoint, watching our team take it and run with it, and just be dedicated, disciplined, and keeping our promises and delivering results. And I think that's key. So for us, we're really at that fun stage now of screaming about the company, which is great, which is fun.
Jeff, it has been such a pleasure now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabeer. I really appreciate it.
Insights.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
Our audience will love every moment of it.
Well,
thank you again.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let me turn this off and see how much time we